Before we get to today's episode, I want to tell you about our great sponsor, Doral Toyota, where they have more than 1,200 cars in inventory. You can find Doral Toyota at 9775 Northwest 12th Street. That's just a few blocks from International and Dolphin Malls in Doral, of course. And if you mention 5 Reasons, you will work with a dedicated concierge manager, not just any other salesperson to try to sell you something. Not that they do that there, but you know what, some places they do. You want to work with a dedicated concierge manager. Mention 5 Reasons or 5 on the floor. Pricing is at an all-time low. They will beat any other Toyota dealer price. So bring it in and they will beat it. Check out DoralToyota.com so you look it up before you go in there to the dealership, and then go check them out in the dealership. When you go in, ask for the Friends and Family department, and don't forget 5 Reasons.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, aka Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome into the latest episode of the 5 on the Floor podcast here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Ethan Skolnick. Here, as I usually am, with Alf Sidney. You can find him at Alf954. I'm at Ethan J. Skolnick, and also at 5 Reasons Sports. Make sure you check out the 5reasonsports.com website. That's spelled out F-I-V-E, reasonsports.com. Several new stories up there today. We're adding new personnel, and it is free. You don't have a paywall like the newspapers. You don't, nothing like $30 a year or anything like that. You just go in, check out the content, and you're good to go. So make sure you check out everything there. Also, check out the other podcasts in our network. 3 yards per carry, of course, Dolphins. Pretty close to naming a starting quarterback. Hasn't happened yet, but 5 rings Canes, they did today. Jaron Williams gets the job over Tate Martell and N'Kosi Perry. I don't have to keep pronouncing N'Kosi because he won't be playing for a little while, it doesn't look like. So check out 5 rings Canes. That's with Josh Darrow, David Lake, and Andrew Ivins. And also we've got lots of new Canes content going up on the site as well. New Balls cast with Chris Joseph and with Slim, Skinny McGee, or Kevin Mayer. You may know him as a great opening to that on the whole Stephen Ross controversy with Kenny Stills and Donald Trump and all that good stuff. But today we're going to get back into basketball. Alf's here back with me. We're going to talk to Howard Beck later in the week. But today we're just going to focus on what is really a non-event, but because, Alf, we have nothing else to talk about right now.
Absolutely nothing.
Right? I mean, we're making it an event. There's still been no Jimmy Butler press conference because I saw him take a picture with Pogba yesterday. He's still in England. I mean, he's on his European vacation. So
living his best life. Good for Jimmy, man.
He is, and by the time he gets back, Riley's going to be gone if he's not gone already. So I've been told there probably won't be a press conference until training camp. So it'll be at the start of training camp, or maybe there won't even be one. It'll just be the first.
That's odd, but all right.
It's odd, but I don't think people are looking into it because they're like, oh, they're training for Bradley. It's not that. It's just a scheduling thing. Jimmy was gone and overseas, and what were they going to do? So he's not going to be involved in that at all, or at least there's not going to be a presser. So really, the only real news we've had other than Udonis Haslem coming back, which we'll touch on this episode, is the schedule release. And so the Heat schedule came out today. I just saw the whole thing. They put out little snippets. NBA TV makes this a big deal at 3 o'clock. For some reason, Major League Baseball decides to put out its schedule on the same day as the NBA, which is such.
Isn't their season still going on? What?
Yeah, nothing but – look, again, I grew up the biggest baseball fan, and I can't sit through a full game. But a lot of it is just they just don't think. Like, sometimes they act like – they are still the number 1 or number 2 sport in this country, and they are not. And so they have to get out of the way of the NFL and the NBA. They can't be on the same day, and they get totally trumped by it. It's the wrong use of words. And so it's just really stupid programming on their part. But anyway, the Marlins schedule's out. If you care about that, the only thing that was in there that I thought was interesting was they're starting games at 6:40 p.m., which are a lot of the home games next year, which to me, I know they're smart. They're trying to allow kids to come, but
no, that's not going to allow kids to come. It's just going to allow people to get there later.
Right. Okay, and even if there's only 12 people in the crowd, and I know the other night there was a lot for Day, and they had a great comeback and all that, but typically there's 5,000.
That was mostly beer fest.
It was, but there's typically 5,000 people there, so I get it. But even so, that's still a total traffic cluster bleep down there at that time of day. I don't know why, but anyway. So okay, baseball not very smart. NBA smarter. They put out the schedule today. Typically, as we expected, the Lakers have 3,000 games. As I reported last week, it helps to have friends at ESPN. There's an ESPN game December 15th here, Lakers at Heat. So that's an ESPN game. It's one, and this to me is what I found to be the most interesting part of this schedule. Like this, where they go at what time of year, as long as they don't have any ridiculous road trips, and this year they don't, it's really not a big deal. They open with Memphis, terrific. It's not a big draw game, but I mean, John Morant's interesting, and
at least it's not Orlando or Charlotte.
Thank you, exactly,
because it's always Orlando or Charlotte.
Orlando or Charlotte. So it's not one of those Southeast Division teams. It's another team that nobody cares about, but that's fine. Okay, so that's the opener is October 23rd against them. There's some interesting stuff with Jimmy Butler coming back here going back to Philadelphia. Josh Richardson coming back late December. I think it's December 28th. With Philadelphia. He's now said he wants to kill the Heat, which I find fascinating. And January 5th, Hassan Whiteside comes back, and by then, who knows if he's even still the starting center in Portland. But maybe. It depends when Nurkic is back.
Hot take.
But the most interesting thing of all this was the lack of national TV games. That's what stuck out to me again. I think it's 6, right?
It's 10 when you count NBA TV.
Which is hard to count because
it's
fine. I mean, you double up on those, right? So, okay, so it's 10, it's 6 legitimate, right? I guess.
I think 3 and 3 ESPN, 3 TNT, and then 4 NBA TV.
And Alf, look, the Heat have not been a national team really since LeBron left. There was a little blip in 15-16, and again, they got to the second round, and they might have made the Eastern Conference Finals if they didn't. And
Dwayne was a national story last year, but they weren't a national team.
Oh, they couldn't even get his farewell on. I mean, they couldn't. Right? I mean, the farewell didn't even make it. Okay, so they haven't been a national team for 4 years or 5 years, and so it's not totally surprising. But I thought there may be a few more, and here's why. One, obviously, you have Jimmy Butler, who is not top 10 guy, but he's compelling. But also, the East sucks, like in terms of draws, and like I mean, they obviously have to push Toronto, but like Kawhi's not even there anymore. Boston, the whole Boston team, by the way, for some reason, and we're going to get into the USA basketball too. The USA basketball is all Boston players now, and I'm looking at okay, they're gonna be fine, but they're not that interesting. Kemba is almost as good as Kyrie, but he's not he's not a national star. He's not a national star. They don't really have one. Tatum's not that yet. Jaylen Brown's not that yet. Marcus Smart, who's on that team, God, certainly not that yet. I mean, Marcus Smart ahead of Justice, all right. So Philly's interesting, but there's not that many interesting. And Milwaukee obviously is Giannis, and
it's Philly, Milwaukee, and then Brooklyn is interesting. It's no Durant, like Kyrie, but that's it.
All right, so that's it. So I thought that the Heat might get more only because the East isn't that compelling. And yet they needed some East teams, right? So one of the things that TNT did, if you saw, was they moved. So instead of going 8 and 10:30 like they've typically gone, they're going to go 7 and 9:30, which makes sense if most of your compelling teams are in the West and 2 of them are in Los Angeles. I get it. But I thought because you needed more of these sort of 7 o'clock games that maybe the Heat might fit in there more, and they didn't. How far away do you think, Alf, the Heat are from being a national team again? Because the Dolphins haven't been a national team since Marino's heyday, right? Since the 80s, okay? But the Heat were a national team for a while, and now I feel like they're not, and everybody's testing the waters with them.
I think they're creeping back up there, slowly but surely. I think the Jimmy move, of course, obviously was a huge step in the right direction. But I think a lot of people are waiting for the other shoe to drop when it comes to the Heat. Who else are they going to pick up? And I think if the Heat do make another move by the trade deadline or even before training camp, which I sincerely doubt, but maybe by the trade deadline, I think a lot of executives are going to be kicking themselves if the Heat add another big name and they don't have a big market team like Miami on their schedule more. But that being said, with what the Heat have right now, I think a lot of people have them anywhere from 4th to 8th. Right, so another not even middling, like lower half of an Eastern Conference playoff berth, like that's not going to get people excited about next season. So they need to, if they can finish within the top 4 of the East and at least get to the second round this year, I think you'll see them back in the teens next year, especially if they have like a compelling series against the Sixers or basically the Sixers or Milwaukee, or even like a really hard-fought series with Boston or knock Boston out. I think them knocking out one of these, those 3 or 4 marquee teams in the East, putting themselves in that higher echelon will lead to more national games next year. The problem is right now nobody exactly knows what to expect from the Heat. and they have a lot of young players that we love. Like, we're high on Bam. We're high on Justice. We're excited for what Hero is going to do. But nationally, Bam and Justice don't have the names that they do in South Florida.
No, that's true. But see, I think, and maybe this is just a product of length of time that the franchise has been around. But like the Lakers and Celtics, I know it's the Lakers and Celtics in the 50s. And as you talk about, playing in like, a 7-team league.
Playing in house shoes. Like.
Right, in their pajamas, right? Okay, but look, the Lakers and Celtics were awful for years. I mean, the Lakers have been awful in recent years. I know they have LeBron now. And yet the sort of the marquee of them never went away, right? Like they kept force feeding, particularly the Lakers. Force feeding. I remember I was working for Bleacher Report, so I was technically working for Turner. So we would have these meetings, 2 years I was there before the season, kind of going over the TNT schedule because I didn't do any work for TNT, but they promoted Bleacher Report stuff. So like we were sort of trying to figure out, how to align with them a little bit. And I remember being in this meeting, and Howard Beck was there with me and Kevin Ding and others. And Kevin's a Lakers guy; he works for the Lakers now. But I was like, they have 22 games. They suck. Like it was Kobe towards the tail end, and we had Turner executives in the room with us, and so it was like the first time and they're like, well, it's the Lakers, and so I guess what I thought was at some point, you win 3 championships, right? Then since 2006, you had a really compelling run in the late 90s. Before that, you've had a ton of it, and I don't want to pump all this into one podcast. I want to save this for later in the week. We need the material, but people have been doing, the top 5 players, in each franchise's history, not just for what they did for them, because obviously LeBron wouldn't be on the Lakers squad then, but what they've done over the course of their careers. And I want to go over who the top 5 for the Heat should be. But the reality is the top 5 for the Heat's pretty damn good, whatever 5 you put in there. Okay, you've got Shaq.
I think it's top 3, top 5 in the entire league.
Right. So Shaq, you got LeBron, you've got Dwayne, you've got Ray Allen, you've got Gary Payton, you've got Tim Hardaway, you got Alonzo Mourning, you got Chris Bosh. I just named the 8, by the way, that should be in the mix. And then, guys like Glenn Rice.
And Chalmers.
And Rio, all 5, all 5. You should be 5, and we'll talk about the big 3. But the other, and then you can even throw guys. They had really good players like Eddie Jones who don't even make that list, right? Don't even come close. So, but the Heat, it doesn't seem like they've been sticky as a national team, right? Like LeBron left, but Dwayne was still here, right?
Yeah, but
they haven't been a national team since.
But what teams that have won, that have had success? Like, look at San Antonio. I don't know how many national games San Antonio has.
Right.
They've won 5 championships, right?
Right, but they're not okay. But they're in. I mean, they play in a rodeo barn. Like, right? I mean,
they're not a big market team, but it's almost like if you
25 minutes from the most the overrated Riverwalk, which stinks. Like, what? I mean, right?
The NBA seems to have this thing of if. It's the franchises that are 50 years old with that fan base. Like the Lakers have a national fan base. It's not so much about Los Angeles when it comes to the Lakers. It's about, Bumble, whatever, Idaho. Like there's Laker fans everywhere. So if you put on a Lakers game, it's not going to be like you're only going to get eyes in LA. You're going to get eyes everywhere. People are going to stay up to watch the Lakers. Doesn't matter who's playing on the team. And now that you have LeBron mixed with LA, like they have to put them on.
No. I get it now.
Okay, but even before, you had Lakers fans are so delusional. It's even like how the Knicks were on TV a lot, and they were terrible.
Right.
And it's like recently, like the last 2 years, where everyone's just like, okay, all right, we can't even ride this nonsense Knicks train anymore.
No, they're not on Christmas for the first time since 15, right? So that they're not on this year. But Philly's another example, right? Like Philly is still kind of has, and I don't want to do the Philly podcast again. You should listen to one we did a couple weeks ago. But like Philly still has sort of a national pedigree, a little bit, not like the Lakers and Celtics. And they haven't done anything since 1983. Like, okay, they had Iverson, right? Okay. And again, by the way, my buddy Shandell Richardson out with him Sunday. I'm sorry. Iverson's career, not better than Wade's. Okay.
Oh my God. Don't even.
We're going to bring him on. Shandell from The Athletic. He's telling me that at B Squared in Las Olas, and everybody at the bar laughed him off. Okay. He's sticking with it. And I tagged Dwayne on all the social medias because he knows Shandell. And so hopefully he addresses it so I don't have to anymore. But Iverson.
It's going to be a cold shoulder next time.
Yeah, exactly. Iverson not better than Wade, okay, and Harden not better than Wade either, which is something I dealt with this morning on Twitter. Well, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead. But look at Philly. Like what ESPN has are so in the bag, and I'm not. I do the thing on Twitter, super fan, all these conspiracy theories, whatever. Most of it's just for fun, but they have pumped the Philly narrative.
Well, why though? Where are they based?
I don't know. Maybe it's
but they're in Bristol. It's the Northeast. It's a Northeast.
Is it the Northeast thing?
Yes,
Because
yes. It's look.
Why didn't they pump Brooklyn last year?
Because nobody knows they actually exist. ESPN has two biases. Okay, Northeast and LA. That's it.
But they don't have a Clippers bias.
Well, they will this year. But they haven't. You're right. But it's Northeast and LA. Now they also have a Dallas bias in football, right? But other than that, that's pretty much what they stick to, except when the Heat was this miraculous story, which won't go away. And that's another time. We have more topics today than I thought. But anyway,
but they also spent a lot of time trying to tear Miami down.
They did, because look, a lot of them, okay, in ESPN, I mean, let's be honest, okay, their parents live down here, okay, or something like that. It's like they're jealous that they don't live here all the time. Like there was a bias against Miami. There's no reason there should be a bias against Miami, but not LA, okay? I lived in both places. They're not that different. The people are even more plastic in Los Angeles, to be honest, and there's less, in my view, there's less culture out there, okay, than there is in Miami. But some people would disagree with me. The traffic is pretty common.
Part of the problem, part of the reason people don't like Miami is because there's too much quote unquote culture.
Culture, right? Yeah, right.
That's another.
Right. There's a certain type of person that doesn't like that.
That's a Light Skin Opinions podcast.
So that is you go for it. Have Steve Ross on. Look, so as far as the schedule, I think we could put a bow on this. The reality is not a lot of long road trips, which is good. They start the season a lot on the road. They finish it a lot at home. The Heat might actually like that because they'll bond early in the year. Spoelstra likes those trips. And like I said, there's none of these like 6-game treks through the middle of nowhere.
Not a lot of back-to-backs.
Not a lot of back-to-backs. Well, they've spread that out, and it seems pretty balanced to me. So I thought it worked. I think it's fine. It's just the national TV thing that jumped out to me. All right, we're going to go through a bunch of topics, rapid fire here at the end of this pod, kind of the middle of this pod, right after this break.
Another of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I can attest to this personally because they just threw out my traffic ticket for me. It was no problem, no points on the license, no other details that I had to deal with. You've got to check out the law firm of Seltzer Mayberg. You can find them at onecalllegal.com. That's onecalllegal.com, or call 1-855-5000-LAW, 1-855-5000-LAW. They handle cases including but not limited to car accidents, slip and falls, and of course traffic tickets. And they've got a new 15,000 square foot office, which we work out of at times as well, on I-95 in North Miami. They handle cases from all over the state. They got a special now. If you mention 5 Reasons or 5 on the floor, they will take care of your traffic ticket for $49.95. Go check out that price somewhere else. You're not going to get it. Call now, 24/7 service for a free consultation. That's onecalllegal.com, 1-855-5000-LAW, Seltzer Mayberg.
All right, we're back here on the 5 on the Floor podcast, and let's go through some topics kind of rapid fire here. Bam Adebayo, we had him on the pod here. He was terrific. He was all excited. He was going to spend his summer overseas. He was taking his mother to China. He got cut for Mason Plumlee. And Marvin Bagley, who decided the next day.
The disrespect continues.
All right. Who decided the next day, Alf, okay, I want to help Sacramento get the 11th seed.
If you're Bam and they call you back, do you go?
No.
Hell no. Okay.
No. So why do we think – because all I saw was the highlights, right? Okay, I'm not out there in Vegas. I wish I was. All I saw was the highlights of Bam, like, schooling people. He played the most minutes of the bigs in that scrimmage. Not by much. They're all about the same. And then he gets cut. Why do you think he got cut?
It blows my mind. I have no idea. And I've actually heard some things, some tertiary stuff that really I don't know enough to actually, I don't report things anyway. But there's some things that I heard that are background off the court stuff that, could just be rumor, could be real. But
that would surprise me with him a lot.
Yeah, and that's why that's why I won't say anything about it. That's why I don't. I mean, I said something about it, but it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really fit his character. But just as on a basketball standpoint, it made absolutely no sense because internationally, is he not the kind of guy you want out there?
I would think. I mean, he's a rim runner. He's gonna get out and defend. He's a guy you can play with smaller lineups. I mean,
he can play in the zone. If you have to go to a zone defense, he can play in the zone defense. He works really well against the zone because he can step out and he's shown a little bit of shooting ability. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like I remember when Somebody put it up the other day, Redeem Team versus the Dream Team.
Yeah.
And it was funny watching that because at that time in 2008, Dwight Howard was one of the best players in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably the best center. He was the best center in the NBA. And Bosh played a lot better than he did internationally because of the things that Bosh could do in the international game. And I thought Bam was going to have a lot of that same success because of the versatility of his versatility defensively.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, I mean, Mason Plumlee's got more international. I mean, more sort of overall collegiate, international, and regular experience. So maybe Pop just wanted that. I don't think there's some Pop bias against the Heat. I mean, they had Bam on the team.
Not at all.
It's interesting to me, and I saw some Heat fans who were kind of down on it now because we've been pumping Bam up, and he couldn't beat out Mason Plumlee. Like you said, all these circumstances are kind of different. I'm one of those who would have liked for him to get the opportunity. I know there are others on Twitter who are like, well, he can rest up now for the season. He's 22, man. Like, right. I mean, he's not going to rest anyway. Okay. And so, I mean, he's been in the gym every day. I think it would have been good experience for him. Guys come back from those trips very different. I think it's a lost opportunity, honestly. And I was there that day. I interviewed him down there at the arena. And he was so excited about it. I was disappointed for him. It was good to see him back at the Big Three the next day. We're going to go to that topic next. It was good to see him back there with Jay Rich and everybody else, and hanging out with with homeless Tyler Johnson and James Johnson's hair.
Tyler Johnson, where? Okay.
I don't. I mean, if I had $19 million, man, like I don't. I mean,
I'd buy a full pair of shorts.
Well, maybe. Well, no, you would wear cargo shorts anyway.
Oh, I would. Listen, I would get the most expensive cargo shorts ever.
No, you still buy them from Old Navy or the Gap.
That's true. But I'd probably get like 8 pockets instead of 6.
Right. And I have those now too because they're dad pockets. So I need them. I've got different LOLs in every pocket. If you have a 5-year-old now, you know what this is. Like you have a different. I have like 50 LOLs in my house now, and they're all over the place. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed by it. I'm not going to root against the U.S. because of this.
I wrote that. I hope they lose to Zimbabwe.
Yeah, well, that's it's one of those bleep hole countries, right? Anyway, we're gonna. That's not coming from me. All right, so let's get to the next topic here, the Big Three, and Mario Chalmers still rules. By the way, our Ryan Lasner, you can find him at Lasner Sport, asked Rio if he's the best shooter in the Big Three, and of course he said yes, because he is. And in recorded history. But that I wasn't there. We had 3 guys out there. Chris Maddox was out there. Alex Toledo was going to do some work on this pod, was out there. It looked like a really good time. And not just because, Dwayne Wade tweeted out that it was the greatest game winner ever when Nate Robinson jumped into Big Baby's arms.
That was actually pretty damn cool.
It was very cool. I think, we see all these leagues, they come and go, right? Like, arena football stuck around a long time, but a lot of these leagues, I covered a lot of them, these minor leagues, okay? And they come and go because they don't do anything different. I really like this league. Like, I had Ricky Davis on last week. Like, it's different. It keeps guys engaged. NBA players, people know who these guys are. Because
that's the biggest thing. There's so much.
Right. Yeah.
It's not amateurs. It's name recognition. There's tons of name recognition. You get to see guys that you're like, why aren't they in the league anymore? Or I miss seeing them play. Like, people down here want to see Mario Chalmers play. Right. Joe Johnson playing that league is not fair. But
no, it's not. Although Joe was this slow 8 years ago. So it's like slow Joe. Like, he's doing the same crap. Like that thing he would do on that. And I know he had a terrible playoff series, but like that thing he would do on the 15-16 team after he got added. Where he's like in the lane, and he's moving this slow, and everybody's blowing by him, and they foul him, and then he just lays it up. Like Joe Johnson is probably going to the Hall of Fame because he was a number accumulator, not just in his bank account, but just
mostly in his bank.
There's nothing I can remember. He's made some game winners, but like there's no significant playoff success there, is there? Right? Like,
it's not even a playoff success. It's hard to remember, like, except for the game winners, it's hard to remember a single play that really dazzled you because it was a lot. It was very slow. It was plodding. I think that's a word that he had, like a big man power forward game, and but he was a point guard size.
So Joe Johnson gained weight over the course of his career, but like his game never really changed. Like you said, it just got slower. And so it's just it's just interesting to watch him play in there. But another of the guys that was playing, and I want to hit on this now, was Reggie Evans.
Oh, hating ass Reggie.
Yeah. And so Reggie Evans, I don't know if people remember this, but the other big three, the Heat big three, with LeBron and Dwayne and Mario Chalmers, and LeBron and Dwayne and Chris, was one of my favorite moments. I was up in Brooklyn, and I actually went to the net shoot around before game, and then I was going to the Heat shoot around after. And so Reggie Evans got asked about the Heat's championship, and he got goaded a little bit because the New York reporters, and he basically said it didn't count because this was the season after the Heat won a championship, when they didn't it was the lockout shortened season. So somehow that didn't count, even though that season I covered it. I was home and road. It was more grueling than a regular season because they compressed all the games. They
were back to back sets.
Yeah, well, the Heat swept one. I remember. I think Indiana. I forgot what it was. Indiana, Cleveland, somebody else. They swept, maybe in Atlanta. They swept one of those, but yeah, they won. I forgot how many games, but it was a 66 game season. And so Reggie Evans said it should have an asterisk by it. So LeBron heard this and just stewed all. I think he even tweeted about it. And then, of course, the Heat destroyed the Nets that night. And so we go to the locker room, and LeBron is soaking his feet, and he's got a game box, which he always asked for, but he had a game box like by his left hand. And so he gets it, and he's just, as we walk over, he's just looking at it. Let's see how many offensive rebounds Reggie Evans had tonight. 0.
Petty LeBron.
0. Yeah, Petty LeBron was the best when he was on the Heat. That was right. It was different when he was elsewhere. But and he had none. So like Reggie Evans has had this bug up his ass about the Heat for all these years. And one of the things about this big three, not the Heat's big three, but the Big Three league, is that there are a ton of former Heat players in it. Like you mentioned, Joe Johnson, Rashard Lewis, Mario Chalmers, Amari Stoudemire. Like they're all over the place. Okay, in this league. Ricky Davis, who I had on the pod. And so I guess Reggie got tired of getting asked these questions, and one was asked of Chalmers about the Heat, and Reggie like snapped. And I'm like, dude, like you're in their arena, like they're letting you use their arena.
Miami, man, like
in
what?
Miami, I don't know what he expected.
Did he expect a lot of three-headed monsters questions? Like, I mean, like just I don't. He just it's like he is petty. To a different level. It's like he doesn't have any reason to be petty. You're Reggie Evans, bro. Like, right. And like believe me, he's much more successful at what he does than I am at what I do. But at the same time, it's like, dude, just be happy that you're up on a podium. Be happy that anyone's asking you questions. I mean, you're in Miami. You're in American Airlines Arena. Chalmers is like back for the first time in how long? You're gonna get a ton of Heat questions.
Yeah, like, you would think, right?
And then also, why, Reggie Evans, would you want to take anything away from your teammate? Like, what other arena is Mario Chalmers going to get that many questions asked of him, right?
Well, everyone, because he's the greatest who's ever lived. Come on.
Besides the GOAT questions. I mean, that should have been a big Mario Chalmers moment, and it was in that press conference. Until, petty-ass, hating-ass Reggie got all of his feelings about it.
What is it about those? This is time for another podcast, but what is about those Heat teams that still drives people in the league so crazy? Like, it's just there's something about them that other players, whether it was Noah, I remember. You remember? Who is it? Who was the backup behind? And now I'm losing my mind on this. The Polish guy, the backup in Orlando behind Dwight. Behind Dwight, Gortat. Remember the way Gortat reacted his first year to the Heat? Like, all of these guys have this issue with the Heat, and I just don't get it. All right, last thing here. We saved it for last. I had him on the podcast. You guys should listen because he was fantastic as usual. Basically on Bam, on Jimmy Butler, on Justice Winslow, what he wants for Justice Winslow this year, on his historical place, on why he's still with the team. All of it's great. 25 minutes I did with Udonis Haslem last week. Check it out. And the second time he's been on the pod. But you should definitely check it out. But just your general thoughts before we close here on UD coming back as a player.
I have absolutely no problem with it. Like, the Heat fans that are all apoplectic and getting all upset about the last spot on the roster. And it's the last spot on the roster. And we're also talking about a day and age where you have two-way players. So it's not like, I mean, even 10 years ago, who cares? But nowadays, you have 15 roster spots and two-way contracts where you keep guys in the G League and you can develop them there. Especially because you don't want young guys that you want to develop. You don't want them sitting on the bench every game. You'd rather them go play in the G League. So that roster spot, I mean, it's been reserved for the likes of Justin Hamilton. I mean, just over the course of time, just a lot of guys who they never got into the game. They were just non-factors. Whereas Udonis Haslem is a huge factor for that team in that locker room. And everybody's saying, oh, why doesn't he just be a coach? You know what? Because he doesn't want to be a freaking coach. How about that? Right? He doesn't want to be a coach. And the Miami Heat obviously don't want him to leave the team. They want him on the roster. It's so funny. Udonis isn't complaining about it. The rest of the Heat roster isn't complaining about it. The Miami Heat organization isn't complaining about it. But a bunch of random fans on Twitter are getting so upset about the 15th roster spot.
And UD addresses that with me on the pod. You should listen to that. What inspired that Instagram post? But the other thing he addresses, and this is why it's about being more than just a coach, is he basically said, my game is practice, okay? And so he goes 1,000% in practice and kicks these guys' asses as much as he can in practice. It's hard to do that as a coach. Like, you can work with them. Juwan worked with them. Keith Askins worked with them. Like, former players who are still in shape and work with them. But it's different when you're playing, man.
You're not putting on the pennies as a coach and getting out there running full court.
Right, because you know why? Because right afterwards you got a meeting, okay, with Spoelstra and Dan Craig and everybody else.
Go run a Subway, like
Chris Quinn. Correct. I was at that one today, by the way, in Oakwood Plaza. It's my stop right after you fit. But yeah, I just think it's different about being a player, and so that's why I understood it. And everybody, again, listen to the pod. It's great. And I'm not just saying that because we want to help Doral Toyota sell more cars, although we do. Absolutely. Go to Doral Toyota, DoralToyota.com, and Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm, where I'm taping this from right now in our Seltzer Mayberg studios, which is basically a closed office door. But I want you still haven't been here yet. I want Udonis to be at the forefront of helping these young guys move forward. And it's easier, in my view, for him to do that as a player. And it's not my money. And the roster spot is freaking meaningless. Let's concentrate on who is going to be the second guy on this team, the second most important player behind Jimmy Butler, not who's going to be 14th or 15th. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. They'll find some other guys. They always do. Like,
the only reason it matters is because it's Udonis Haslem, and that's my point. Like, you wouldn't care about that spot. We care about that spot because of Udonis, right?
Right.
So I don't understand why anybody would. If it wasn't Udonis, nobody would even think about that spot. And it just said it's something that's different in this Twitter age, and I don't mean to sound like an old man, which I know I'm about to, but just like the nostalgia and the respect for a player who's laid it out on the line for you for how many years,
right?
And for guys, for just random guys who never get off their couch to sit there and talk shit about an all-time legendary Heat player, a guy who's going to have his number retired, a guy that damn well better have a statue in front of that arena when it's all over. LeBron's not going to have a statue. Shaq's not going to have a statue. Right now, it's probably just going to be Dwayne and Udonis. Right. If that guy wants to play till he's 55, 60 years old, you let him play because he deserves it. All the pay cuts that he's taken over the course of his career to stay here and keep playing for this team and this franchise, he deserves every penny he gets. He deserves to be on this roster as long as he wants. I'm done. I don't want to hear the complaining and the disrespect from Heat fans. It's really gotten ridiculous.
No, it has gotten insane. And I, again, I don't.
Why, you want Jarnell Stokes on the team? Like Yante Mateen, whatever his name is?
Maton, yes. But right now, I'm with you.
And they're nice guys, all right? Jarnell Stokes, actually, we've had conversation with him. They're nice guys. It's great. But these guys are not difference makers on an NBA team. And I know it's the Heat fans that get so bogged down in the G League and prospects and this and that, guys who just are never actually going to matter. And that's a shitty way to say it. But you involve yourself. You get so caught up in the Briante Webers of guys that just are not going to matter in the NBA, and you sit there and you disrespect a legend, and it's stupid.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And so we'll close there. We got other stuff we want to get to this week. I do want to hit those top 5 in franchise history stuff. So we'll probably hit that later in the week. We're going to talk to Howard Beck in another league perspective. Again, check out 5reasonsports.com, 5reasonsports.com. Final say here on Udonis Haslem. James Johnson said it was his happiest news of the offseason. We didn't talk about JJ either, so we'll do that in the next pod, and his hair. But the happiest news of the offseason should be when he cuts that thing. Okay, please cut it. Okay, but if James Johnson says that, that's how the players feel, and so I'm going to go with the players instead of like Twitter trolls. So we'll end there. Check out DoralToyota.com.
This is Ricky J. Mark. In a world where sports radio continues to shift around the whims of corporate interests, we understand that the constant, unexpected changes can be exhausting from time to time. So that's why we think you should sit back, relax, and take 5. Reasons, that is. So go ahead, grab your smartphone, and subscribe to the 5 Reasons Sports Network, available on virtually every podcast platform. We're South Florida's fastest growing on-demand sports media network, so you decide when you want to tune in. You decide when you want to listen. Because we know your life can be hectic, go ahead, fall in love with our lineup, including 5 on the Floor, 3 Yards Per Carry, The Fish Tank, Light-Skinned Opinions, and Cinco Razones, whenever you want. All you need is an internet connection. So go ahead, tune in. Try us out. We're by Miami, for Miami, and spreading rapidly throughout South Florida.